have anything that they want to share that they've been working on? Yeah, okay. Bring it
So,
on.
this is super exciting. Well, I mean, probably not for you guys who are more experienced, but I had a piece that was it wasn't selling, and honestly it wasn't that great. So I'd made it from a the handle of of a spoon,
Yeah.
and whoops, that's yeah, this is what it okay, so ignore the circles and the cut.
Mhm.
And so it was just the basically the handle of a spoon, and then I cut it and bent over one end. And I thought it was kind of cute, but somebody might use like a key ring sort of deal, but it didn't sell, and it honestly wasn't that exciting. So I decided to turn it into two different pieces, and now it's this, like a little,
Ooh,
it's meant to be like a basket of roses. When I get it, I literally just soldered it. Once I polish it and patina it, the roses will pop out more. And
yeah.
then I took the top and um obviously added some bezels, and so I have two stones I'm gonna put in there, and then the finished, oh, I left it in the other room. I drew a little picture. Anyway, so I'm gonna um cut this part out here and join the bottom like I did for the top of the rose basket, and
Yeah.
then cut out this section. And I think I'm gonna have to leave that where it is because it's part of the, I don't know, I might be able to saw out a little bit. But yeah,
Yeah,
so it's gonna
if you haven't soldered your bail closed, you could get in there.
no,
Otherwise, you could use a
the,
drill.
the bail was already done, but I could still use the drill if I'm just very careful. I don't
Hmm.
know, I might just leave it. But
Nice.
yeah, it came out kind of cute. And then I also just finished soldering this,
Ooh, what
Oh,
a
and
that's
great
that's,
nice.
form.
yeah, I have an iolite that's going in the top.
How's the
One of
back?
my least favorite stones to set because they're so fragile, but it's
Mm-hmm.
beautiful. The purple is gorgeous. Nice.
Can I see the back of
What
that?
do
Oh, so it's a hollow form.
Yeah.
Okay,
is
cool.
that part of the spoon?
It was a different spoon, but yeah.
Cool.
Wow.
That's a great shape,
Yeah, I bought
man.
like six of them. I'm just having fun with it. That's so cool.
Nice. Now, do you do any Kiambu yet? The
No.
gold on top? You might want to look into picking some of that up because adding little Kiambu details to those pieces would just like elevate the price because then they have, of course, 24 karat gold for very
Mm,
small amounts of gold. Just
yeah,
stylistically, not necessarily to those two pieces, but
right.
you can
I
add
can
some
see
great
that
things.
like
Like when you said the roses, right? When you said the
yeah.
roses, I was like, are those gold foiled or no? And you
Mm-hmm.
could do just tiny bits of touches into the rose
Yeah.
work, something like that. Very cool. Nice. That's been a productive day.
That was just in the last hour.
Holy cow.
I mean,
Okay.
well, then I finished them, but yeah, I started them Sunday, I guess.
Nice. Nice. Anybody else have stuff they want to share or questions on that they're stuck on?
I just want to share
Mhm.
something.
Yeah. Hang on, let
I
me
just got
spotlight
it.
you.
My sculpture got accepted for the New York Jewelry Week, November next month.
Nice.
Awesome.
Yay.
So I'm very
Congratulations.
excited. Thank you. Thank you. So
So
the
tell us
piece,
about this piece. Are those removable pieces of jewelry on the sculpture or
um,
they built into it?
you could take them off.
Yeah.
It's a sculpture piece that I wanted to make two people as one.
Yeah.
And then I added all the circles because I just felt like it was missing something.
I like the movement.
Yeah. Yeah.
So so it goes with the circles. They can decide how they want the circles on it, you know?
Nice. So is it silver and brass?
The whole thing is sterling silver. It's a sand casted piece that I made.
Cool.
Um, and then the circles are brass.
Yeah. Okay. I love it. And I
So
just love how much you're having fun with your sculptures and how much people are responding to them at your shows.
yeah. And yeah, finally, because that's not something
Yeah.
that really people like, and but it's like they don't know what to do with them because of the size, I think.
See,
But
I think you've got a sweet spot on the size because people who just have small apartments or whatever, or they've already got a crowded space. It's a cute addition to it. Are you making your own bases?
no, these I got from someone from India. I had ordered them online a long time ago. So I bought a lot of
Very
them
cool.
because I like either putting them on a black marble base or on a wooden base that I normally spray paint black.
Nice. So
So
that's a block of marble that it's on?
yeah, it's marble.
Cool. You can feel the heft when you're holding it, like it comes across
Yeah.
how solid it is. I love it.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm
Wouldn't have even thought to do that. Yeah. So
excited.
when does it go and how long does it show? And
I just today I just found out, and it must be shipped by the first, and
yeah,
then 14th is the opening, and it's called Flourish, and
yeah,
it's during the exhibition will be catalog in the New York City Jewelry Week.
very
So
cool.
yeah, thank you.
Is it up for sale while it's there or
Yeah, yeah, it's up for
very
sale.
cool.
So
That's
it's going to be in a
amazing.
gallery. They're going to have jewelry and sculpture, but I don't think that many artists do sculpture, small sculpture like I
Mm-mm.
do. So I
It's
Mm-mm.
think
very cool.
it's an area that I'm starting to fill the niche, like they say.
Nice. That's
Mhm.
amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, oh, that's exciting. Anybody else have anything they want to share? Nothing? Helen? Okay. All right. So I have been busy, just not necessarily with terribly focused things. I think maybe even since my last session with you guys, my Instagram has gone a little nuts with all the clasp work I've been posting. So
Really?
I'm sort of weirdly viral in the jewelry world all of a sudden, which is
Yay!
yeah, but it freaking me out a little bit. Um, Hopefully it means good things for when I finally get the book finished. Um, but that's why you're seeing a lot of clasps on my
I
Instagram right
love
now,
it.
and
I love it. I love all of
and
them.
I'm learning a whole lot of new words for jeweler from around the world because I'm finding people from all over, everywhere there is jewelers, people are picking it up. So that's exciting, but a little bit of pressure. But otherwise, I have gotten some time at the bench for a couple of things, and I am going to show you where we are on our current state of one of three necklaces. And we'll talk a little bit about what we got going on. So, oops, that's probably a little too close to see the whole shebang. So this is where we left off on our clasp last time, was we had done the toppers and we had done the be able to pop it in there just barely. Oops, got to put it in the right side though. Pop it in there just barely so it goes clink when we get it done. I'm not going to do the whole force it in thing. So this is ready to be built out and put together. And then, of course, we have the main pieces of the necklace. I have not finished soldering them together. I'm sort of on the fence about waiting a little bit because I want to think about my layout of stones before I do it, and whether I'm going to Kimbu it a little bit in between because I did design this with fine silver so that I could add some Kimbu, but it may be overkill after the stones. Um, and I also have only connected this connection in the center. I haven't done Oh, sorry, in this section. So I left this one so that if you guys want to see that on screen, you can see me solder a ball of gold onto the end of a peg. Super exciting, I know. And these, as a reminder, these two uprights are the tube set stones. So these are sapphires that I set using the technique of putting them into the tube into the flex shaft to set them. And because they can deal with the fire, I can then solder them into place, and so these will eventually become the full-on pegs for the uprights. adding yet a little bit more bling. We have a bunch of sunstones that will go on it in some configuration yet to be determined. And the sticking point has been, how am I going to connect the chain, I mean the bead, the 3 bead strand to the ends. And we've been playing around on a couple of the sessions with different templates of different shapes. I started out trying to make 3 tubes that were of my gold bimetal, and I didn't like how that looks together. I've tried doing offset sizes of like one being taller than the other. I didn't like that. I've done a few different mock-ups to see how they would bend together. Didn't like any of those. And here is what I am finally feeling pretty happy about. And it is this sort of cupped and shaped, and this is not in its final form, but this is the rough. So it really is going to bundle the 3 strands together the way that I want. It has a taper, which is what I was fighting. There was too much width at the end, so it didn't make a natural extension out of it. And I'm going to be able to, when I finish it, it's going to have a lot more hammer texture to it because I'm going to do some more forming on it. But I'm able to get that effect of having 3 channels in it. And then this little addition of cutting away, and I'll show you the shape it started its life in. Oops, I'm not spotlighted. Hang on, that'll make it easier on you guys if I spotlight myself. Spotlight for everyone. There we go. That'll make it a lot easier to see me. So this is the shape that I start with to get to this. And you can see that it gives me these little topper points that will then tuck in between each of the strands, giving a little more definition and a little tiny bit of support. Until I get these properly threaded, we're not going to see the full effect, but roughly, you can see that they each go into their own little slot, and then the upper points kind of come over and hook between the segments, right? So that little addition of a tiny cutaway and fold over gave a little more movement and dimension to the piece that finally made me happy with it.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's not about adding to, sometimes it's about taking away. And I think once these are fully formed, I'll be really pleased with them. I'm doing them in fine silver. So again, I could add some detail in Kambu if I want to, just to extend the gold silver elements coming up the side. I think I need this to be a little more cleaned up from all of the pickling and other actions before I can really see just how much, if any, gold I want to add beyond the stones. But overall, that makes me pretty happy. And so we'll have those there, and then connecting up to here. I may try to make them ever so slightly, oops, I can't see that in that screen. There we go. I may make them ever so slightly smaller, but I'm actually kind of okay with the proportions as they stand. There's not radically bigger than the connector pieces to the clasp. But yeah, so that's where I've landed on that. Any questions or thoughts about that shape? Or even opinions? If you hate its guts, if you think, God, what, Rachel, that's just ugly, that's okay too.
I like
I
the
love I love the shape. It's organic. It really takes it to another level. So
Mhm.
I really like the way that looks because, it's the ending of something that
Yep.
you started. So that's really cool. But I'm still wondering how you're going to connect it with, are you still thinking about a circle, like a jump ring or?
This is either going to end up being jump rings, or more likely I will put another tube, since I've got the tube connectors, and I'll
Mhm.
run sort of a triangular jump ring into this. So what I did when I was just threading these is I just played around with what would happen if I have everything tied together to a single connector here, right? So
Mhm.
it's going to come through and connect somewhere in there. But it would have to be a little heavier duty than just this 20 gauge wire or whatever I've got on here right now. So I think visually it'll need, even if I'm using a wire connector, it's going to want to be a tube like these uprights, but whole, just to keep continuity.
Mhm.
Still playing around with that. I could go just super basic and do jump ring connector level. I want to see what it looks like when I've actually got these strung well so that they're all pulled together. It may be that it's easier for me to string each strand separately so that I actually have 3 connectors coming out. I'm not
Mm.
sure yet.
Mm-hmm.
Other
How do
thoughts, anyone?
you how do you like straighten it? I mean, how do you tighten it, I
Straighten
guess?
what?
The beads when you
Oh,
connect it.
so that's going to be all about restringing these and getting them. I'm going to have little connectors like you do for ends of pearls. I keep blocking my own camera. Sorry today, guys. So there's
Okay.
ways that you can put
Okay.
loops in there and then you can snug them down tight.
Okay. All right.
Somebody else said something?
Yeah, I'm liking the undulation at the top with the hooks. That's brilliant.
Yep. Yeah, isn't it gorgeous? I mean, you got to be
Yeah,
careful to polish them so they don't cut into the beads or the thread because they could be pretty sharp. But yeah, tiny little adjustment because when I did the first one, I like doing my mock-ups. I was like, well, that's interesting, but it doesn't go far enough to just have them because I mean, this by itself, it kind of like I was thinking that one would go up the side of each bead, and that's interesting. But as soon as I started forming and the metal responded and started wanting to curl one way or the other, as soon as I saw it curling this way, I was like, no, no, I want you going the other way. And so encouraging it back. And this is just a few minutes of chasing and repoussé to get this shape, which again, if we have time after we finish the clasp, I'll show. But yeah, simple little thing that makes such a difference.
yeah.
And
I, I'd like to see
possibly,
the repoussé. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the barest of bones of chasing. But the other thing is that I may end up like building an inset tube for each one to give it a little more support. Like, the way you put those flower stem holders in a vase to hold weak stems. I might put something that just adds to the pull, but I don't know. I like the weight of this. I think it fits okay. Um, I don't do a lot with beads, so I don't have a whole vocabulary for ways to connect it, but it's possible that I could put interior jump rings and sort of thread it down through the interior jump rings as it goes down further to give a little more support so they don't move out of their individual positions. Like I'd have something sort of, where's my pen? Buried down in halfway down. I don't know if I can get in far enough, but I have that's easier to point with file.
You mean like a little base or something like that on the bottom?
No, not a base, but I'm thinking if I were to put it's going to show on camera for you guys. If I were to put a jump ring down about here,
Mm-hmm.
and get that in a position that you guys can actually see what I'm pointing at. Where am I going? Camera wise. So like right where I'm touching down, halfway down here, if you were on the outside, it would be right about here. If I put
Mm-hmm.
a little half jump ring out there and then run whatever wire I have coming out of a single strand through that, and then they meet together at the bottom, it would keep each strand sort of locked into its individual segment a little bit. I don't know. I'm going to have to play around with that. Other thoughts, other feedback?
I like it.
This shape, yeah, this shape is really appealing to me. I may have to do something larger with repeats of this shape once I've got it done. Because like, just think about what you can get out of that nesting and hooking into one another and the ways you could connect them together and what kind of linking you would do.
You can do a lot.
As
You can
as
do a
a form,
lot.
it's a really appealing.
Yes. I can see you can easily put an orchid coming out or something, just
Mm-hmm.
as a vase per
Yep.
se or something.
Yeah,
Well,
I
all I
don't
know
have
about
huge.
beads, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just thinking when I think of beads, just a simple beading that they have the crimp
Mhm.
beads and then they have the little, like, just think of a little tube like a straw where you put the string through to protect
Mhm.
to protect it from, what do you call it, raveling or something?
The French,
Oh, the
Well,
French
you want,
wire?
French wire.
yeah, I, well, there's French wire for threading them, but there's also coiled stuff that you put on, you make your eyelet and you protect the thread, the silk thread, so that you don't get wear through the
Right.
thread as it moves back and forth. Yeah, I mean, I have beaded, I have strung pearls. I just don't usually have the patience for it, but this project really screams for it. Oh, the other good news is I was cleaning my studio and organizing and realized I have 2 more strands. I don't have to worry about it being too short.
Yay.
Yay!
Yes,
Yay!
that was a relief. I was hoping they were smaller because we were talking last time
Yeah.
about how if I could get a tapered set of beads, but they aren't. They're just 2 more of the same stuff. I must have really, really liked they must have been a really good price too. Oh, 3 strands. I have 3 more strands. So if I need to, I could repeat this crazy exercise. So yeah, that's where I'm at with that. And we're gonna
Before
have
you
to
move
make
on,
this and then, pardon?
sorry, before you move on, I wasn't here for the
Yep.
development of that. Can I see the template real quick?
Oh, absolutely. And we're gonna if we have time today, we'll do making one out of this. So the template is made, I use this foil called Made-O Metal, M-A-I-D-O Metal, and it's a gold silver heavyweight foil. You can get it in other colors, but this is perfect for doing the kind of work I do. And so I mock it up in graph paper, cut it out of paper, then make a template of anything that looks promising. And because it holds its shape, you can do the things that you want to do. So I knew that what I wanted originally, let me bring over those earlier mocks. So what I knew I wanted some kind of triple tube thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that I wanted it to sort of loop on itself, like S coil when I first was thinking about it, so that it would be 1 out, 2 in kind of thing
Mm.
along those lines. Didn't really quite fit smoothly. It looked awkward. I tried making a set of literal tubes that I was going to solder together that were just end cap kind of things that would go over each piece, and then all 3 of them would get soldered together. Super sloppy looking by the time it was done. Couple different shapes that I tried for the cutouts. And I've been fighting with this for 3 or 4 sessions. And so I sat down last night and just said, I have to get this done in order to show some things. And it came to me that I wanted some cutaways. So that's where I landed, was with this sort of bat wing starting shape.
Yeah.
So yeah. And then again, I thought I was going to get, there, let me actually shape it the way that I was shaping it when I first did. And you can see what I'm doing. Hang on a sec, and I'll be right with you. It's easier to do off camera a little bit. So the basic was really just, I'm trying to get a smaller profile. So I knew I wanted it to tuck in between each section,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's where I sort of started. And then I realized that I really liked that curve. So as I started to do my seam lines, it started to curve these this way. And I didn't like that because that would have been pokey. So I said, no, go the other direction. I like the curl, but go the other direction. And that's how we ended up with the tuck backs.
Mm-hmm.
More questions on that one? Okay, well, we will set that little bat wing aside until we've accomplished our clasp making. And I'm going to set the beads and all aside for a bit.
Rachel, I was just going to interject that I just got my roll from Dick Blick, and
Oh, yes.
and I think it was $41 on sale, but it's a lot of it.
Oh, yes. I have 2 rolls because I had to buy one when I was traveling at one point. And I have had 2 rolls for 20 years now, or 18 years, whatever it's been since I
Yeah.
learned about it.
But
Yeah, I'll have,
the price at Dick
pardon?
Blick was better than Amazon. So
Oh, good. That's good to know. All right. So when last we met, we had built out our funky inset reticulation layer to give the decorative element. This, as a reminder, is going to be driving the car into the garage, and this is the garage. We also put in our garage walls. You can absolutely do these freeform without having those walls, but it is so much more stable and less likely to torque by having the garage built in. And we went so far as to make sure that we could slide into the slot. There's probably going to need to be a little smidge more filing down to make it truly easy to go back and forth. But we're going to do that touch up after we build the connection point to what's going to push it in, because it's going to, the tongue will be inset into this device, right? And so this will be a unit, and then this will be the receiving garage, and we'll put them together. So as a reminder, our steps on framing this out, we made our hollow form with the top first because we're always working on these box clasps from the top down. So we're working a lot of upside down work. Then we made our tongue. And one of the things that may be a challenge for me is that I'm barely fitting in there. I may have to take a little more material off or reset my peg a little bit, because as soon as I finish my springing at the end, once this is all put together, it's going to probably stretch a little bit and want to bump up against the back wall. So I may have to take down a little bit more material. We'll find out as we go. And so I did the setting enough to make sure that it will just pop right behind the wall. I don't know if, let me see if I can zoom in enough for you guys to see just how closely fitted that is. So as we go in, right, we're here, we're here, we're here. As we go in, it just fits. Oh, I can put a red line there and you'll be able to see it. This is our front wall here. You'll be able to see it peeking out of the garage just inside the material, right? That is ultimately a great fit because it doesn't have room to go anywhere. It can't slide further forward. It can't easily pull any further back, and it doesn't have room to go side to side. So aside from adjustments I'm going to need to make for the last of the springing, this is about as good a fit as I could expect. Right? So our next act is now to create the connection point. So once it's in the garage, all the way parked, we need to have this positioned in such a way that it's not jammed up against. It's not so far apart that there's this huge gap between them, right? Oops, that's not going to show from that angle. We don't want it hanging out here, leaving a big wide gap. We want it sort of right up against with similar proportions to the rest of the connectors. Let me bring back those other connectors for a minute. So these have the luxury of a tube between them. We don't have that tube, and we could choose to try and emulate the same amount of distance, and that would be okay. I'm not in camera again. I'm doing really terribly with my angles today, guys. So we could try to emulate having about a tube's worth of distance, or we can say, no, we're going to try and hide a little bit more back behind there and go a little closer. So I think I personally don't want to see a whole lot of flat sheet metal. So I'm going to aim for a little bit closer rather than tube width apart. Right? I don't like that as much as I like sort of there-ish. So it's hidden.
I agree with you.
Me too.
Yeah. So I'm going to do a little drawing because this one is the fiddly bits. Let me get this. Get some of the right markers.
Rachel, what gauge are you using for that class?
So it's 22 on the frame, and then it's hard to gauge the thickness of the top layer, but 20 gauge for the, I think I used 20 gauge for my tongue. When you're working in brass or copper, you can work smaller. Let me double check that gauge. 20 gauge for the tongue. Oh, I may have even done 20 gauge for the walls on the, yeah, I did 20 gauge all around. So 20 gauge frame and 20 gauge tongue. You can get that, especially on smaller box clasps, you can get down to 22 gauge. The tongue I would still keep pretty solid at this size. But oops, I'll go a little further out. But you don't want to go much thinner than that unless you're going into brass, and never ever make them out of copper. Okay,
So what makes it snap? I'm sorry. So what makes it snap when
the
it
click,
literally
you mean?
goes in? Yeah. Uh-huh.
The click is, here, let me draw this one because it's easier to show than describe. So we have this spring, right? We've got our side piece, and we've got a fairly highly sprung, raised up back to it, right? This is going bing up the ladder. But we have a short little garage that it's getting squeezed down until it is, when we're going into the garage door, we've made such a narrow opening that it's actually getting squeezed unsprung or tensioned down to like here. And then as soon as it gets through this door, right, it goes, I'm free. And it literally opens back up again to where we were. And so what you're hearing is the click of it sliding right past this point here and going pop so that it lands somewhere around here. And then that's why we have the prong. So what you see is the clink of it popping up, and the base remains ideally hanging out right there. So it's all you're hearing in the click is it getting past this part of the door.
What
Is
a
there
great
like a
And
buildup?
explanation, Rachel.
Oh yeah, good. What was the question?
Is there like a little buildup when it goes in or inside of the actual garage? Is there like an
Yep, let me,
edge?
where are we? There we go.
Yeah,
So
I'm
you
just
see, we made that lip. So
no.
what's happening is it's literally, it's squished down as it fits through here,
Okay,
right?
yes.
And then as soon as it moves far enough in that this part is past, oh, I keep going out of frame. This part is past, that part springs up right behind this little half lip.
You're out of frame.
Thank you.
Can I see the
So
back
right
again?
behind the half lip. So as
Can I see
soon as it gets here, let me actually see if I can show you the action, if I can keep it snug enough. So let me zoom out a little more. So we're squeezing because we can only fit through the wide part of the door, right? Squeeze, 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 pop. As soon as it gets past, squeeze, 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 pop, it pops, the sprung comes up and it opens back
Maybe
up.
a better word would be tension, tension, tension.
Release, yep. So
Okay.
we've squeezed it, tensioning, and then pop, it releases. Right now it's not fully sprung, so it's not doing a whole lot of pop. But as a reminder, we only partially spring it when we're first fitting it because we're going to have to do 2 more passes at least of tightening it, and it'll wear, like we don't want to overwork the metal here because we lose the tension when we heat it back up again because we're annealing it. And so we're going to have to re-spring it. So we spring it bare bones to go here. And when we have it fully sprung down the road, it's actually going to be open more like this, like that much. You'll really know it's going boing back up and holding the tension, because a well-tensioned piece, once it springs, the tension will hold the upper part all the way up against your top of your garage, your roof of the garage, right? If it's hanging out down here, it's too loose and it could slide back out. So you want a fully tensioned piece that pops up to the back, or to the top rather. Is that making more sense?
Yeah, I didn't realize you had like a wall on the inside. I was like, well,
Yep.
how does it? Okay, yeah. Thank you so
Yep.
much.
Well, it's on the outside. The one that it's clicking against is this little piece here, right? So that's after it passes by there, squeezed together, then it goes, ah, I can get a part. And it pops up behind the wall,
Mm-hmm.
behind the little wall. This doesn't do anything other than create a space that limits where the car can go as it gets into the garage. It can't go left, right, because it's tucked into the walls. So
Mm-hmm.
again, like Allison Anselman does a fabulous little variant hollow form. She does a very, I say little, not meaning small, like nothingness. I mean, she does a very narrow little width of a tongue that goes into her hollow forms, but she doesn't, I don't think she builds a frame out for hers. It's just allowing the slot to do its job. Totally legit. It just has a little more pivot and wiggle room when you do it that way than when you build the frame for it.
Okay.
Right? And you'll see a ton of especially early, 20s, 40s range jewelry, especially bracelets that have those tiny little, very unsupported tongue to box clasp combos. You can see them in tube form on some bracelets and necklaces. They're built into the structure on a lot. They're often used. There are even some really wonderful ones where you see the mechanism underneath. It's not an enclosed so much as it's framed. And so you can see the mechanism. So box clasp as a concept is a great one to sort of riff off of. But our next step, so we've got, if I wanted to, I could make my box clasp work with just these parts. And then I could like put some jump rings off the back and hang my beads off of that and so on. But I don't want to. I want that piece hidden in here somewhere about there, right? I want to have it coming through and fitting into the other side so that there's a thing for them to hold on to while they're pushing down on the little lever. And once it goes together, it disappears, that it is two separate pieces. So here comes the trickiest part. This little doodad, we have to, I keep putting down whatever I'm cleaning things with. Let me get another paper towel. Otherwise, I'm using my polishing cloth, and that's no good. All right, so we have now our opposite side of the garage, which in this case happens to be a funky shaped hollow form, right? We have built all but the floor of this and the garage, right? Eventually, we're going to add in this blue layer that is the floor or the back plate of this piece. And we're going to have to do it to this too. It so happens that because we're smart, we're going to do both of those out of, we're going to use 22 gauge for that because it doesn't actually have any of the support strength needs of the other, and it's what I had. So I'm just going to use some patterned 22 gauge that matches the pattern that I put on the backs of all of the other hollow forms in the piece. What that means is that this little section is going to be 22 gauge, and its opposite mate in the door, which let me draw the pretend door for a minute, which is coming out this way. Our door is hanging out over here with a little keyhole for the, so we would actually see this up top. And there's our walls that it has to pass are hidden back here. So as soon as we put a floor on this one, that is, let's think of that as the cement that has been put down so that our car doesn't sink into the dirt of the garage, right? It also creates the platform on which this is going to slide into the garage, right? It is literally the cement floor because this piece is going to run along it. So my piece on the opposite side needs to let this in at this level, stuck up here so that it rests above this line, right? Because if we just attach it, we don't have a real leveling to balance out. It would be trying to lift up the cement or down the cement, depending on which way we put it. So what we have to do is build a slot that this fits into snugly. Well, you know, cutting out a little slot of this by itself is a pretty straightforward task. And we need it to be, you know, that thickness, because that's what's getting stuck up in there, right? However, we need to make it precise to be opposite its mate. Because if I don't, I'm going to end up with this. They're going to be off center from one another. And so that's the tricky part. There are some additional tricky parts if you are trying to build into uneven, like if this were twice the height of this, or vice versa, if this were twice the height of this, I might need to make my garage door level be partway up the clasp. Or let me actually grab my example of a plain box clasp if I can easily get to it. I've been cleaning up a little too much lately. Hang on a sec. Let me see if I have it organized the way I think I might. It's my box clasp pile. Box clasps. Somewhere I've got a big pile of box clasps. There we go. Okay, so on this one, I'm gonna have to zoom in a lot for you guys on this one because this is tiny. Where am I? There we go. Okay, so on this guy, instead of putting another hollow form, I put a wall, just a plain old wall at the end of it to close off my box clasp. I need to get into, where's a better spot for you guys? All right, I gotta zoom out because I can't deal with this too close. All right, so you see how I've just got a sheet of heavy gauge as my wall instead of my entire pusher device. So what we're about to build is the equivalent of just that front wall, right? If I were to rest this right on top of this one, it would be representative of what we're about to cut away. But on this one, because I needed my wall to be the entirety of the box, I have to actually set the tongue, the back of the tongue, part way up the wall. This is not showing well for you. Let me see. You see where I've outlined?
So Rachel, instead of making a double floor to raise the height,
Yep.
you're making your height in the car.
Well, not quite in the, yeah, I guess it is attached to the car.
Yeah.
I'm shoving sort of a fin, if we're taking the metaphor.
Oops, just lost sound.
Am I back?
Yes.
Yes.
Am I back? Okay, good. I don't know why I might have hit my button on the battery. And I'm certainly charged.
Oops.
Lost you again.
Let me see. This one its battery may be dying. I may have to attach myself to the battery charge.
But we hear you, and now we don't.
Okay, do you hear me again?
Yes.
All right, I am now connected to a battery charger. I'm betting my mic didn't charge. And I think my other mic was behaving badly the last time we tried it. So just help me remember that I'm actually connected to the computers before I get up and go over at the soldering station. All right, so what I'm saying is that this plate, oh, I'm still out of range for you guys. Can I see this? Do you guys see the little framed black marker, Sharpie marker
Yes.
Yes.
here? Right, so that is me actually drilling and carefully filing a slot in this whole plate, as opposed to what we're about to do is we're going to work on the plate itself. So if this is our plate, we're going to just be able to do this from the bottom of the plate. But when I want to do a whole flat one, I'm actually working if I'm working in just a plate like this, what I'm doing is creating a pierced slot for it that is a 22 gauge level up from the floor. There's a slot that my tongue fits into, right? So it depends on the kind of connection you're doing to the other side, whether it's just a piece of sheet. If I were looking at this as the walls of the box that we're building, this little line below our black marker is the equivalent of my purple base sheet, right? I'm up by one base sheet's width, or if we go look at it in our box, one base sheet's width. That red, oh my God, my lighting is just terrible today. What am I doing differently? There we go. So that amount of difference is what we have to account for on one of these back plates by moving the tongue up by that much. I have no idea if this is making sense today. I've been on meetings since 7 o'clock in the morning, so I may be babbling at you, gang. Is that making a little bit of sense
Yes.
conceptually?
It's making a
Yes.
little bit of sense, but I still, when you put the piece into that slot, isn't it going to leave it uneven or wobbly?
Not if you've done it well, and this one's decent. So you can see that I've got, so let me see how to
So,
describe this. Can you guys see?
Rachel, because you have your logo in the upper right-hand corner,
Oh, I'm sorry. Here, let me,
move it in just a tad more.
did the logo go away?
No.
No.
Oh shoot.
But if you move your hands towards the top of the board, no, to your left a little more.
There we
you
go.
go.
The
There you
opposite of
go.
what I think it is. Okay, so you see how there's this ever so slight little bit hanging out back here
Yeah.
above that bottom plate. We're upside down right now in case that wasn't clear. So that is the height, right there is the height of the shiny red back plate. And all it's doing when it comes in, how can I angle this? All it's doing when it comes in is it's sliding along the cement floor, which right now looks like a roof, but is actually a floor, until it lines up with that. And when it's on its back, when it's properly fitted, you can see how it lines up. And yes, this is fiddly because it's tiny. Like getting in there, you have to do this usually with your saw blades. And if you have a super ultra tiny file, you can clean it up by hand. But otherwise, you're mostly using a saw blade as a file to get that slot cut in there. Good news is today's project is easier than this, right? Because we don't have to
Oh,
make
thank
the
God.
hole, right? We don't have to make the hole. We're making a slot. So I'm going to go back and clean up this drawing again so we can see the difference. And I got to put that Sharpie away before I start using it on the wrong board. So the good news is that because we are working without our back plate on yet, without this purple 22 gauge that we're going to add last, all we're doing is we're doing this kind of a slot that we're going to cut away, right? And we're going to actually be able to cut it and file it. Because the purple will, when it comes back into play, represents that tiny little slot that we had of extra material down at the bottom, this line of red on this puppy below my black Sharpie mark. But I want you to understand this concept too, because there are times when you don't have a huge hollow form on the other side to put your connector in. And your choice is something like that, or something like this hangs out and you put some holes in it and chain, links together and stuff like that. And it's kind of ugly and unfinished looking. This is a much more finished, complete look to your project.
So
With me on
what you're
that?
saying, I'm sorry, what you're saying is you're gonna saw it out or file it out before you put the back plate on?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
We're going to not
Oh,
only
yeah.
saw it out and file it out, but we're going to solder that into place before we close it up. Closing it up is the last thing we do on this project. Well, yes, closing it up is the last thing we do on this project. There are times when there's a little more front and top stuff.
Okay.
But yeah, so because we want this soldered in place right here, while we can still make corrective action if I've accidentally done it off center, right?
Okay.
I need to be able to adjust until I have the perfect fit. Only then do I put my back plates on. Questions?
Nope.
Oh.
Go
It's a
for it.
lot. It's a lot. This is, say again?
I said,
No.
go forth and we'll have a better idea.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. All right. So one of the things that I have to do before doing this is enough cleanup and sanding and filing that my front plates are in fact equal, like there's no excess hanging off right now. So I cleaned this one up last night. I got to clean this one up a little bit more to get those extra bits off, because most important for me is that I can tell where I actually fit. So I don't end up doing, I'm going to make an exaggeration of it. I don't end up putting it like that. I
Right.
want it put opposite each other, right? And that's much harder to do when I've got excess scrap. So my favorite for this, this is going to be fun, doing the attached to the microphone while drilling. Let's see how this goes. Hopefully I won't go catching my mic on things. I'm going to put my goggles and my mask on briefly for this, because this particular device does fling metal around and it gets everywhere. Can you guys still hear me even with the mask on?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. So this is one of my favorite tools ever. I use it a ton. It's a Mizzy heatless wheel, and it's what you'll see. I want to make sure I'm going forward. I was working backwards the other day. There we go. And it just takes material down.
You're off screen. Can you zoom out a
Sorry, I didn't
little?
zoom out, did I?
There you go.
So I usually work the excess materials at the edges first, and then work the whole side. And this is my favorite texture. A lot of my work has this on the side of the bezels, and you'll see I did it on the sides of all of the hollow forms too. It doesn't tarnish as quickly as a high polish does, which is one of the reasons I like it. It's quick, doesn't show mistakes very much. You do have to it takes a while to get used to the tools because it takes material down quickly. And even though it's called a heatless wheel, it means the wheel doesn't get hot. It does not mean friction doesn't work. It still heats the metal very quickly. It has a directionality to it. I wish they had smaller and bigger sizes and other shapes, but they don't really. There are other materials like it, but nothing is as awesome as the Mizzy. I've tried multiple brands, and I always go back to this one. I
So
think they're
Rachel,
only sold in a couple. Yep,
when
go
you
ahead.
say it, excuse me, when it has a directional component to it, means
Pattern.
that the wheel is turning away from you.
No, I mean, so when I'm working this way, it puts a grain in the
Oh,
wood
okay.
that goes this way. And
Okay.
when I go this way, it puts a grain. Yeah, it has like my texture is always upright on the walls as opposed to, I'll show you a little bit of what it looks like sideways. The sideways pattern, I don't know if that's showing enough the difference versus the upright pattern. I don't need to go more than that, so I'll stop there and then zoom in for you and get this
Or
hot
just bring
mask
the
off.
piece up to the camera.
Yep. Use my dots to tell me where I'm going.
Oh, there
So
you go.
this is
Yeah.
the upright texture that I like. And
Uh-huh.
then this is what happens when you go side to side, which I don't like as much. It looks somehow unfinished compared to the upright, which is a little, like you can see, I keep going into my logo, don't I? The upright is this first section, and then the left right is that section. I just really like how it looks in a vertical more than I do the horizontal. And I use this Mizzy wheel when I'm taking down my edges, even if I'm going to be filing it clean. I just work very hard to only do literally my excess material taken away, because it is a lot of deep scratch, so it's hard to get it back down to a smooth finish after you've done it. It's really it's a workhorse, and it took me probably 6 months of playing with them to get good enough that I could do my texture consistently, that I was taking down just the right amount of material to get where I wanted to go. So don't be impatient with it, is what I'm saying. It also leaves a sharp edge at the top. So the last thing I have to do after I've taken it down is I use a crossing file, and I just take off the lip that it creates from all the way around wherever it's been. And I usually do that from both sides of the cut, because it can definitely add a little bit to each edge. So I'm just doing a quick takeoff of that excess material. Make sure I didn't leave any on the other side. I did not. All right, so I now have my trimmed down at the front, not worrying about the back. Like, I don't care about this because it's not telling me where I'm going. Now I have two pieces that should fit well together. They better, because we designed this one to fit this one. And that means that I can take a look at the piece up front, and you can see they fit really nicely across from each other, right? And one of them isn't higher or lower. If one of them was much wider than the other, I could adjust. I could center it. I could decide to have it towards the top or the bottom as I saw fit. I'm going to get rid of that red mark that I put down, because I need it out of the way for the real mark that I'm about to put down. Because what I now need to do is measure what is my opposite the garage door marking. I'm going to do this with a really fine tipped mark, because I want to do some work around it. So all I'm doing is measuring and marking where my garage door ends. And then I'm going to rough in my cut across. Except that I'm not actually doing something that tall. That's just my starting measure. I just want to have the frame in which it's going to match, because as soon as I lock it in and fold it back over, those should be opposite each other for when I connect, right? So now we're going to take a pair of calipers, and we're going to get the proper thing. Well, first thing we're going to do is we're going to straighten out that back plate a little bit, because that's got a nice warp to it. Before we go any further, we're going to want to do that. Wow, that is really torqued. A little healthier. We're going to be cutting away a whole lot of the tail. But I want to get my gauge, my thickness rather, because I want to mark out, oh, that was too thin. I want to mark out on this piece the actual height that I'm taking away. In fact, I'm going to put down a little more Sharpie than that so that I can actually score it into the Sharpie. And I am going to err on the side of too short, too narrow and too short in my first pass. So it is quite literally whatever 22 gauge is, or like a millimeter, not even a half, 3/4 of a millimeter, whatever 22 gauge width is all I'm taking down from this. And we're going to do it in tiny steps. And I'm going to start either with a saw cut or with you could use a triangle file cut. It's a little harder to keep control, but I just want to go down to my marks inside of all the marks I've gotten, because I need to have this fit so snugly that it'll be hard to lock the tongue in when I do put it there, because I need it to help hold itself in place while I solder. So again, inside the marks that I've made.
What blade are you using for that?
I just default to a 2/0 when I'm cutting almost anything 20 to 22 gauge range.
Wow. For some reason, I thought you would go thinner or
No, because this is just a give me my, so I don't know that we're going to be able to get close enough on it. It's to give me my guide mark of how
Okay.
far out I should go.
okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get close enough for you guys to see, but itty bitty little, I just was cutting down to the shiny line that you see. That's as far as I want to go with this. And this is all going to be about filing really carefully. I'm going to start in this case with a good small barrette, but I may, once I get the frame laid out, I may go to a bigger one. It's just so little material that I'm taking away that I don't want to go deeper than I mean to. So this is really,
Adjust your camera.
oh, thank you. I gotta go out further. This is really just an intense little careful filing exercise. And again, if we were doing the other version that was just a back plate, we wouldn't be filing down from the top. We'd be drilling and trying to either use saw or tiny files to get into the space. And I am checking this frequently because it does not take a whole ton to get down to my line. And I realized I missed describing a step. Another reason that I cut inside my lines is that we're going to put a little notch on, I should have drawn this one out for you guys, sorry, earlier. We're going to put the tiniest of little cutaways on our tongue on either side. So we're going to take material away on either side to give us a stopper point at how close we want it. This one I got to draw because I did not describe that well, I can tell. So am I out far enough? So if my tongue is like this with the peg and I got the back plate, if I take away, let's say I know that this is where I want my tongue to come out of this piece. What I'm going to do is take the tiniest little sliver away so that I get, I'm going to exaggerate it, but I get this. And these little notches act as stoppers when I bump up against here. Right here and right here, they bump against the outer wall. That's the other reason that we keep our doorway narrower than the actual opposite side door. So again, I'm going to just take and away, but I don't take that measurement until I know my positioning. So this first pass of filing is supposed to leave it too narrow for this. And it is still too narrow. Good. So as long as I don't file it further left or right, I'll be all set. So I'm just, you guys can't see it even if I zoom, but I'm going just to my saw marks that I made inside the gate lines. If we're going with our garage metaphor, we're going to think of these as those little bumper warning things that you can put on each side of your garage door to say, hey, you're about to hit the wall. I'm going to push that metaphor as far as I can. I will remind you that as a general rule, it's good to use the largest file you can control. So I started out with the little guy, but what can happen when I'm using a narrow file like this across a wide passage, and what is in fact happening, is one side can get more filed than the other. You can get a high or low spot. So by moving back now that I've got a frame for it, to my wider file, I'm sort of evening out the pass that I do across the flat surface. In a perfect world, I'd be able to go all the way across, but I'm running into the other side. And again, I have to be careful not to go beyond my marks. Still having a lot more material on one side than the other. Trying to make sure that I'm staying square to those little cut marks that I did. A little bit down. Check this. What I'm looking for on fit is not, can I slide this in? I shouldn't be able to yet. I need that extra little material. But is my height evening out? Am I getting a flat surface across? If I put the material in, am I getting the same height all the way across the back? And the answer is I am pretty good on one side, no, a little bit further on both sides. Got to go down a little smidge more. I'm just squaring up my saw mark lines. Check our height again. And I'm just running my finger across it to see if I get a catch. Still getting a catch on that side. I'm still getting a little catch on that side. A little bit of a dip to the left that I'm trying to correct for. Even things out a bit on the right. Okay, my left side is really solid. I still need to take the right a little bit further down. And we're talking like 1/10 of a millimeter level adjustments here, if at most. Dip in the middle. What I'm checking for is, at this point, is levelness between the two. I got a little bit of a swoop that I'm trying to balance out over to the right still. Makes me happier. Let's see. Think we're good. Okay, so now what I have is the right height or the right depth of that cutaway, that if I were sliding it in, it would be at flush against the cement floor. But what I don't have is the width. And this is where we now need to put them back together and determine how close we're getting between the two pieces, right? So for this, I need some kind of scribe or marker that I can get in there while it's in closed position, in essence, and mark out how much I need to leave behind between the two. So I'm going to go with about that. I'm going to get a scoring device of some hopefully narrow sort, possibly easier to do with a file, a sharp pointy file. So what I'm looking for is what is an appealing distance that's not too much, not too little. And that's going to be the line that I want to bring my narrowed down edges straight up to. In a second, that will make more sense once I get this line marked out. Okay, so I've now marked the cross line, except that that looks really off kilter. Hang on a sec, let me double check that. Nope, that actually looks pretty balanced. Okay, so this is the line to which I am taking away outside edge material by the tiniest of tinies, that tiniest of tinies being the difference between the width of my garage door and this width. So that see the black marks off to the sides? About that much and that much is what I'm looking to take down on the sides. So this will be another case of make my ending saw mark where I want it to stop. And again, it's easier to err on the side of caution and then file more away later. So I'm just trying to give myself a stop line.
Well, Rachel, right now that your camera is focused on 1, 2, 3 fingers. There you go.
Sorry, let me zoom even further out. There we go. You didn't see all that magic happening with just those 3 fingers?
No, that was the point.
This tooth on this blade is kind of awful. Let me see if it's, there we go. So once again, I just need enough of a mark to tell me when to stop, but otherwise, I'm just taking material down. And it's not much. I just need enough to keep a notch of difference to make that stopper for myself. In fact, let me pause there because it's actually a really good visual. Let me get in close for you guys and show you the stopper cut. You see those little notches I'm filing to?
Yes.
Right? This side of it is what it's going to jam up against when it goes into the garage that we're going to lock this piece into, right? This is going to stop the tab from going any further into the locked in piece because I need it to be held in position when I solder it into place so that when I get it into the proper position, it stays where we want it. If I just tried to solder it at full width, it might do this, it might torque as I'm soldering, it might flow, it might, any number of things could happen. So this is really my protective step to keep it where it needs to be. And now I just need to get the walls, I mean, the tail cleaned up. Sorry, go ahead.
Are you making a stroke from that notch all the way to the end of your piece?
I am, except that at this point I can cut a whole ton of this off. I realized I'm doing a lot of extra work because I
Okay,
only need, you know,
move your camera.
this much. Oh, I'm going to cut off. In fact, right now I'm going to cut off like this much because I
Okay.
only need enough to sort of be the stabilizer against this stuff as it goes in so that the tongue doesn't fall out. So I realize I'm working on a lot more material than I need. And it doesn't have to be a fancy cut. It doesn't really have to be super cleaned up, but it does need to be flat by the time I'm using it. And I'm going to check and see if we can fit through or in. Nope, I got to take a little bit more down. I want to spot check how close I am. Oh, I'm not as far as I thought I was down on my notch. I'm going to take my notch a little further down.
And you're taking that notch down because it wasn't hitting?
It wasn't quite at the line. Because I had been cautious when I made my saw cut, I was a little above the line that I wanted to be at for my position.
Okay.
So I was just tightening up its positioning, and I am needing to check which side needs adjusting, the top or the bottom. And it looks like if I'm going to go lower on that, yes. So my top edge needs more adjusting in order to get it centered a little better. And this is the point at which you check it frequently because you really, really, really don't want to go beyond your snug fit. I am so close, so close.
Just for me, Rachel, could you just
Sure.
take your left hand away while you're stroking?
This?
Yeah.
No.
Well, just
No,
move it.
I am good, but I'm not that good.
Well, just move it down just for one stroke for me.
You
Okay.
want to see this
Yes.
action?
Yeah. Thank you. Okay.
So this is a habit you should not get. If you can do this without your
Right.
finger on it, much better for your hands and for your carpal tunnel. I have grown up on this and I cannot stop myself, but try to at least keep it loose instead of held snugly and just use it as a guide or, you know, put a couple fingers on it to keep it stable. But yeah, this will really do in your carpal tunnel situation. Now we are so close to being a snug fit that I have to be really careful at this point. In fact, we may have just gotten there. Let's see. Nope, not quite. Oh, yep. I just need to push a little harder. So what I've now got, and I'll try to zoom in a second because I want to double check that I'm right, is a good fit and a good distance. I managed to get a little closer than I meant to. The stopper. So the stopper is going to keep it right there. I can't go in any further. I don't know if I can zoom in enough for you guys to see the nuance on this one, but let's see. So my stopper is keeping me from pushing this. Oh, Wrong spot. There we go. My stopper keeps me from pushing this piece any further that way. That's too close to zoom. There we go. You didn't see my hand motions. The stopper little knobs that I just cut into create a point where I can no longer push this further along the tongue, so that when I'm in here, you can see it sticks right at my stopper points, right? It gets stuck there and there. You guys see that? I know it's a
Yes.
tiny little adjustment, but that means that as long as I'm happy with how it fits when it's in play, it's a little closer than I intended it to be, but it'll do. It'll stay proportionally where I want it to be. And I got my height adjustment pretty good, so it's not, you know, down here or whatever. So I think we are ready to solder this bad boy in to that position. Right? We're going to go do that. Except that I am going to hope that my battery is charged enough now that I can disconnect. I'm still talking. Battery's not going anywhere. Hopefully we'll get a few minutes while I'm over there. Help me remember to plug back in when I'm back over here. And if I go out, yell. So now we have some fun with positioning because we have things in the way like our peg, which we could hang off of an edge. There's a lot of things we can try to get a position, but we can also probably finagle, because this is really hard to do this way. I want to see what I'm working on. I think I'm going to actually push the peg into something in support. That's not a bad setup. It's a little bit loose. I think I'm also going to pick up some T-pins just to hold things a little more stable, because I really, really don't want this shifting on me once I've got it well positioned. And what I have to be careful of is that it doesn't wobble out the other direction, that it doesn't loosen up forward, because my stopper only keeps it from going the other way, you know, it keeps it from sliding too much that way. It doesn't help keep it from sliding apart. That looks like a pretty good rig. Let's put a little bit of flux in here. Going to use some medium solder. Which I have to cut because I do not have a little cut. Don't need that anymore. And I want to be pretty generous because this is a weak spot in there. If I don't get it fully soldered, I'm going to have problems. It needs to really hold because it takes the brunt of the pushing action. This is one of those scenarios where I'm really happy to have a trivet, a rotating trivet, because it makes it so much easier to get heat in various places that are tucked away beneath things. We can see that starting to flow into play. You need a little bit more solder over there. A little bit down there. Okay, so I've got my edges pretty well soldered. I think I want to add a little more solder to this one side. Does not feel terribly full. Oh, that's one way to do it. There we go. All right, and then I want to flip this bad boy over. And don't forget to pull your, if you quench your T-pins, don't forget to pull them out of your quench bowl, or else you might find that you have any pickle that you've got in your quench bowl starts to copper plate your work. I have done that before and been like, what the hell? Oh, there's a T-pin in there because the steel causes it to plate. I think we're in good shape. No, I need a little more solder in there.
So
So sorry, go ahead.
go ahead. Would you, because the camera's far away, can you show me where you put that solder or bring
Yes,
that?
absolutely. I can also zoom a bit. Whoop.
There we go. Yeah. Okay. Maybe use your
Sorry for the
pointer to,
bounce around.
where did you put that solder?
Yeah, my camera doesn't want to stay put. So I put the
It,
solder here
yeah.
and here, right at the blocker marks. Because
Yeah.
I had these snugged up against, and I want solder flowing. And what I'm checking now, which will be impossible for you guys to see even on the close-up camera, is I got decent flow to about here and about here, but the middle missed some solder, like right inside of that, underneath this. I don't have enough flow. So, and what I need is to bend my peg out of the way again. So I'm going to quench this and lift it, and then maybe you'll be able to see a little bit better what I'm
Thank,
seeing.
thank you. No, that was great.
Yep. All right, let me zoom back out a bit.
There.
There we go.
Oop.
Okay. So right in from about here to about here, I don't have full solder flow from that. I got decent flow to about like 2 millimeters in from either side, but I want to get in there and toss just a tiny bit more solder to make sure that it stays. And now I'm not worried about it moving out of position because of the it's still stuck, it's solidly in there. I'm just I don't have to worry about it tilting or shifting because I did those positional notches. So this hopefully is a quick get in, get out. I say hopefully, because it's always when you say that it's a problem. One piece of solder somewhere in the middle.
And what level of solder are you using?
I'm using medium.
Medium.
I can't do more than that with the materials I've got in here at this point,
Yeah.
even if I were comfortable with the amount of framing. And the risk is that I'll open up something else while I'm doing this. So I should go in a little hotter than I am and quicker if possible. Come on.
And your
There we
tip
go.
looks like a zero.
It's a 1.
It's a 1. Okay.
It's a 1. Yeah, it's a 1. I am running a little hot on it on purpose because I don't want to be here any longer than I have to. There we go. Now I'm a happy camper. Now I've got a solder seam you can see all the way across. All right, so we're going to let that cool a little bit, but I now have a tongue inset at the same height. So my back plate would be able to go on top of this, right? Oh, what you guys didn't see me do before we got here is that I did my filing and grind down of the back of this one and the back of the other piece to make sure that they were even and matched, so that I should be able to go from this to back plating. I may have to do a tiny bit of sanding to get the little bits of high solder off, but it should be just literally a touch-up bit. Because now my next step is that my back plate is going to, well, not quite next step, but my last step is going to be putting the back plate over all of that mechanism, right? So once that's cooled, I'm going to pickle it. In fact, I can probably quench, yeah. And I'm going to put that in the pickle for a few minutes, and we'll see if you guys have questions to this point.
That was nice.
I have a question.
Sure.
Um, and I've never done one of these, so why would you solder it to the part you soldered it to rather than solder it onto the back plate that you're going to put on later. It would just seem to me that that would be an easier way to do it, but I'm
Um,
probably wrong.
the reason I don't is because the positioning, when I can control where I lock it in, um, I'm in much better shape to make sure that my two halves meet instead of meeting, right? If I put it on a back plate and my frame slides ever so slightly out of place as I solder down the back plate, I get a
Okay.
bubble or a spurt of, I didn't get all of I didn't dry out all my flux, so it goes and moves. I'm never going to find that position again.
That
The
makes
reason
sense.
the reason I like this backwards upside down business is because I can always be working on the step that is the complex mechanism while seeing it, right? As soon
Hmm.
as I start using the back plate, it's hidden to me. It's invisible. And if it
Right.
shifts, I can't tell. And I would have to take it apart and do it over again.
Okay, great.
So yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. And I'm going to get another example of the why you need to learn how to do them not always against the back plate. Let me see if this has an example of that. When you're doing box clasps, you need to be able to show, there's my big bracelet. There's my big bracelet. I better not have lost that. You need to be able to show that you can put oh, there we go. You can put the position wherever you want in the mechanism, meaning it doesn't have to be at garage floor level. Here's a good example. Let me bring this into the Zoom. You guys not seeing that yet. There we go. Okay. So here is an example of what we've just done in a bracelet. This is not my making. This is something I picked up at a junk store. But you can see that because they've got a flat interior line, they were able to make the plate of the tongue just rest on the back plate equivalent. And therefore, they have the same thing we just did is slide it in on the cement, push it through, and it clicks into place, right? Nice,
Hmm.
streamlined look, fits the bracelet really nicely. Here is one where it is curved and curved. This one I did make. And so because it's curved, I don't have a flat garage floor to put it in. So instead, we center it in the middle of a plate,
Uh-huh.
right?
Got it.
This is closer to that little square, the little flat black backed one that I showed you. But it also has, we have to make sure that we put our cutaway for the garage door at mid height across from it. So you're designing these plates so that they fit the need of the height and proportion of what you're working on. If you do one of these inside of a tube, you really don't have a cement floor. You got to be able to slot it and position it where you're doing it. So this exercise of making the little notches and cutaways gets you guaranteed that you are opposite each other where you think you are when you're putting it together.
Great. Thank you.
Yep. Other questions? Okay. Everybody's rushing out to do box clasps after this, I can tell. There's a reason, gang, why I teach the basic box clasp in almost every clasp making class I do, is because you need to do it over and over and over again before your brain will go, oh yeah, now I understand the machinery. Now I can put it inside of a bigger garage, whatever shape. And then the next shape, the thing that I recommend for when you do your first inset one in a hollow form is do it in an oval, right? An oval is one of the most difficult to fuck up, pardon my language. It'll have a fairly consistent shape that you're working with, especially if you put a pattern material across the top of it. Because when we're doing it, one of the things that we're doing differently than we would do in my traditional hollow clasp, and which will the hollow version of the standard hollow form version of it will be what I do in my December workshop. Um, in those, we're building a whole hollow form and cutting it in half to make the two parts of the garage. The one we're doing today is a different type of complexity because they're two separate units that we're trying to create this visual unified look, right? So this is about how do we make the connectors integral to other components. Whereas if I'm doing like on my big giant hollow form necklaces with the mokume gane, though that one has, I took the shape that I was using over and over again in my hollow forms and split it down the middle to make the two halves, the holding half and the garage half. So slightly different approaches, but the techniques that we're showing here are the principles in essence behind those exercises. Any other questions? Okay, let me see whether we are ready to come out of the pickle. Do our next step.
I gotta go, but thank you for everything.
Sure.
And
Hope you
I
got
hope to
something
see
out
you.
of it, and the video will be up in, a week-ish. Oh,
Excellent.
and by the way, we don't have a November, but we will have our final session in December.
Okay. Awesome. Take care.
Yep. Thank you. All right, so we're out of the pickle. We are now fairly unsprung because we've put so much heat on it, right? I got no spring left. It just stays. So I've got to do a little touch-up hammering. Where is my cross peen? I need to clean up my bench a little bit. Let's see. Don't need that. There we go. Again, nominal amounts of spring for now, because I just want to be able to get some action on it. And it may need to do a little more loose that. But that's going to be our action. So yeah, I've got a lot of spring in that right now. It's a little closer than I intended it to be, but I can live with that. If I were intentionally trying to get them butted right up against each other like I would do in a two halves of one form, it'd be a different story, but I'm okay with what we've got for this. So that's what it's going to do when it fits. And it is just barely hitting that back wall, so I may need to start planning to take a little more off the front. So we could ostensibly now put the back plate on, but I need to do a little, I need a little more comfort that I have enough room sliding in, and I think I want to take a little more away from the upper level of the garage door because it's just ever so tight and it might be hard for the user. So that's just a matter of taking down some more material. The reason you want to do this fitting before you've covered it up is it becomes exponentially harder to get out of the garage after you've got it covered back up, right? If it gets stuck, it can be a royal pain. Theoretically, if it went in, it should be able to come back out. In practice, not always the case. What I want is when I'm firmly holding it down, I want it to be able to pop in. That is still a little snug. I can't tell whether I've got a little bit of gunk at the end that's catching. So I'm going to do a little taking down of the solder bits off that edge. I am going to take advantage of this to also take the excess a little bit off the back end. Because I'm nervous that the last spring is going to do me in. I
You're
like
off
to make
screen.
sure
So
that,
what are you
sorry,
filing?
back out a bit.
There you go.
I'm just taking ever so slight bits of material off before I get to the
Oh, okay.
peg, because
Okay.
I'm feeling like the next time that I spring it, it's going to be bumping up. It's going to stretch enough this way that it's going to bump up against the back of the garage if I'm not careful.
Okay.
This will also put back in a little bit of the separation between the two halves. And it's much easier, again, to do it now than once I got it tucked away. As a worst case, if I discover that it's gotten too snug, I'll just have to reposition the peg, but it's such a good fit right now, and I'm sure I'll put it askew if I'm not careful. That makes me happy. All right, so now I have to do a little bit of filing cleanup on the back plate of where I just soldered the tongue in. This is a really good reason to have a bench hole, a hole in your bench plate, because you got all that peg and everything in the way. And I just need to take it down till it's flush to all the other materials in the back. I can also do a little bit of cheating and push down on the back of the back plate, because now that it's soldered firm, I don't need it any particular place. But I want to get an even file across the surface. And at this point, I have an enclosed hollow form, so I also should put an air hole somewhere in this piece before I close it up, just like with any other hollow form I work on. Now, we have one fiddly bit while putting this plate down, which is normally I'd take a chunk of my silver and do something like that, right? But I can't on this front edge, or else I will solder it to the tongue. So one of the downsides of this right up against the cement floor is that we have to prep that front line a little bit before we go and solder it down. So let me flatten this piece of metal a little bit more than it is. Just got up. Also a good time to remind you to put your maker's mark on one of your back plates, which I will do as soon as I've got this marked out for putting down. I think that should do the trick.
Do you ever use yellow ochre?
I hate yellow ochre. I grew up, oh, just managed to magic marker my face. I grew up mostly working in school studios, and where every school studio I've ever been in that had yellow ochre at the bench, you would invariably get people mixing up the brushes, and it would get in your flux and completely screw stuff up for people at really inopportune times. So I grew to loathe it. I have a water-based whiteout instead that I use on incredibly rare occasions. And I don't, was there a particular soldering exercise that you thought might need it?
You said, like right now, you're going to solder the bottom, the back
Yes.
plate, and you had
Yep.
mentioned that you don't want the clasp itself to be soldered onto it. So, yeah, you
Oh,
mentioned that.
so this would not be solved even by yellow ochre, because it would be, this would literally be the sheet being on top of it, so solder could flow under it. So instead of worrying about yellow ochre, what we do is we solder right up to the edge. I've trimmed my edge to just barely attach to that. You can see that, right? So I still have my extra space everywhere else, but right up on this one, I'm bumping up against the top. If I had done it here, even if I had yellow ochred this, it would, what it would in effect do is it would get yellow ochre every corner where I don't want it and make it hard to flow the stuff that I do want flowed. But again, that's one of those, if it works for you, it works for you. For me, it wouldn't work. I use whiteout so nominally, it's not even funny. Oops, I need to drill my hole before we go any further. Easy to forget that while I'm yapping. I will use it occasionally on hinge work, especially if I'm doing a repair to a hinge. My other piece. Where's my hand piece? Oh, there we go. It's hiding in the back. And if I have a really, really complex adjustment on a fancy setting of some kind, but not much else. Not much. I know there are people who live and die by it. I just, yeah, those bad experiences on the stoppers at those schools really messed me up.
Because I just I have a whole container of it that I've never used. I guess I must have bought it
Mm-hmm.
because someone suggested it and I've
Yeah,
never used it.
exactly. I have some probably somewhere in my space. I don't know where. I definitely have the whiteout. I have a set of very infrequently used tools, and it's on one of those shelves.
And you're choosing that to drill that hole there because it's not going to show.
Exactly. Good catch. It's just an awkward position to drill into. The other thing I have to be aware of is because I have the extra internal layer, I need to make sure that I'm not causing a second pocket inside of that. When I'm doing nested hollow forms, I will often put a drill hole inside one of the interior forms as well, but this doesn't actually have any enclosed spaces that won't be accessible because I intentionally made it lower than the rest of the material. I think that I am going to put my stamp on the other half though, just because I've got enough going on with this puppy. And so we're going to put that plate down. And this is standard to what I do on any hollow form back plate, where I love the magic of paste flux, because paste flux shows me a lot about the process of flow in the hollow form. What I mean by that is I'm going to be able to use it to mark out. Oh, did I drill and not? Helps if I clean out my piece. I should do that. I don't have little bits rattling around in it down the road. Let me get rid of that out of the way. So what I mean by it shows me the marks is if I put down a layer of the paste flux and I position my piece really carefully where I want it to be, which in this case is butting right up against the edge, I can go to the white crispy level of the flux and it'll have left a mark behind once it all dries, framing exactly where my walls are placed. So let me get bubbly. I may need to put a little more on because I had it watered down. So that's the first thing that I like about what paste flux indicates for me. I can move this out of the way and you can see the little outline of my walls. Does that show?
Not really.
Yes.
No? Yes, maybe. Bring it.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Okay, so that tells me where to put my pieces of solder down just inside of it and also on one spot. So I'm going just inside of the lines. And then on one spot, in this case, I'm going to do it towards the front. I'm going to go over. Oh, no, I'm not going to do it on the front because I'm right up against the front, so that doesn't help me. I'm going to go over my line on one piece of my wire solder because I will then be able to watch it settle, knowing that it's gotten hot enough to flow inside of that. So the other thing it does by doing that is leave me a lifted pocket. Move that over a little bit further. It leaves me a lifted component that creates a little bit better heat flow underneath. I'm lining back up with where I was. And I'll show you what I mean by that lift. So you see how this one little segment is lifted up because of the wire underneath it, whereas the rest of it is relatively flush down. It'll settle better once it's heated. But this one is going to be my canary in the coal mine. Let me actually show it a little bit more than that so you guys can watch it happen. If my wire doesn't fall off.
You're using still medium or hard?
Still medium. Yeah, I don't go back up to hard when I've got this much medium on it. But also
Okay.
you really shouldn't use anything higher than medium when you've got the reticulation silver in there, because the melt temperature can be destructive to
Mhm.
the other material. Back right up to the edge. So now you can see a little bit better. There's that one piece of solder there. That's going to be my canary. And so we're going to watch the flux for getting to the usual clear or reddish color. And then we're going to watch for that little piece to settle to tell me that things are starting to flow. And so I like having the lift because I can get some heat underneath instead of worrying that I'm just going to melt everything out. So I'm starting to get to that clear to black to reddish black color on the flux. I've got a lot of material in the center, so it's a little harder to get warm inside. I'm watching for my canary, and I also like to have a heavy pair of tweezers nearby so that once it does start to settle, I can actually help push it down and encourage it. I'm going to actually even do that a bit right now because it's not entirely flush. There we go. My canary just started to settle. I should start to see flow all the way around. There's that starting flow. Do I catch up with my other pieces a little bit? Push down to get it going. Got a little bit of flow. I think I'm going to have to grab some spare solder and do a touch up with some wire solder, getting it a little bit more flow than I'm getting. There we go. Good shape. Come on, all the way around. Meet in the middle there. There we go. Got to make sure I get flow underneath the tongue as well, which is a little trickier to see. But I think I've done pretty well all the way. Maybe a little more flow there. There we go. Okay, this is a hollow form. So we do not quench closed hollow forms or they'll collapse. So we've now got a back plate on, pretty well soldered. I may need to do a smidge bit of touch up on this side. I have to see it pickled before I can tell. But it's in there nice and solid and it's well framed. We're going to leave that one aside. Let it cool for a few minutes. Questions?
Yeah. Yes.
What you got?
Well, I recently took a class where they did a bead roll up with a graver and then set a sphere on it to solder to hold that
A
sphere in
bead?
place. So I was wondering why you were, making the form. You used the paste flux to make the grid where you're,
Yes.
okay.
Yep.
So what they did was that they took a graver and wiggled up to that line in a
Yes.
number of
As a,
spots. Okay.
yep, it's called a stitch. Yep.
A stitch. Okay. Yes. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
And so why did you choose? Well, you just like your method better, huh?
So I use stitches on things that like a sphere needs precision. Like when we do the enclosed keyhole toggle, we use
Yes.
stitches because you don't want them ever so slightly off center.
Okay.
This one, the reason I used it for the mark, the other thing is spheres, two halves of spheres, you don't have a flat surface to rest against, so you really need some things holding them together, or even a half sphere. You don't want it sliding out of a specific spot.
Right.
But on this, the reason that I wanted the mark was not about holding it in place. It was about showing me where to place my solder,
Okay.
right? So I have the line, I can go, because otherwise I might risk having a piece of solder in the middle, rattling around somewhere that didn't get caught up in the heat. As long as I've got them out to my edges, I know that I'm likely to pick them up as they flow.
It'll draw
So
to
yes,
the seam.
absolutely. If I were doing precision fitting together, stitching is the way to go.
Okay.
Just remember
you.
to sharpen your graver before you do, because the number of times that I have. Yeah.
Don't know how to do that. So
Oh, there's actually some good videos, and John has a passage in Creative Stone Setting on it. Okay, so the other thing I have to do is my other half of this, and this one is a much easier setup because I don't need to drill a hole because I've got air gapping in this one.
Correct.
I am
So,
just gonna cut myself a piece. Pardon?
I switch your camera. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm only here for 30 seconds while I cut myself a piece and stamp it, but yes. This one is a straightforward solder a back plate on. Flatten that out a little bit. Better than the other one. It's whenever I'm doing back plates that I really wish I had one of those thumper presses that I can never remember the
Yeah,
proper name for.
pommelizer. Yeah, it's
Pommelizer, is that its official name?
no, that's my official name for it.
I call it the
Gotcha.
thumper.
Okay.
That
The
sucker is
thumper.
expensive. I've
Mm-hmm.
seen the
Right? I keep
price for
hoping
that,
I'm
and
going to
all it's
run
doing is
across
just,
one.
yeah, it's just smashing your thing flat.
It's got one job, yeah. And like
That's it.
I cannot bring myself to buy one new. Um,
Oh, I've
and
had
so I
mine for
haven't got
so
one.
many years.
Yeah.
I love it.
Okay. So I'm gonna put my stamp on it.
Tell us again
I occasionally
where you got your stamps. You had some guy do your stamp.
uh mine was from Micro Mark, which I'm
Micromark.
not sure it's still open. I vaguely recall somebody telling me that they may have closed. And I just
Micromark?
sent them
Oh no,
Micro
they're
Mark, I
open.
think.
No, they're
Oh,
open.
okay.
I just
Yeah.
Then
got,
I might have the name wrong. Is it Micro Mark a tool maker?
Yes,
Like, do they make stamps? That
yes.
was a
no,
really lousy job of stamping.
I don't think so.
no,
No?
it's more of small tools. Like I just got, remember I was trying to learn how to do the tap and die. So I
Yeah,
just got a
then
bunch of tap and dies from them.
then I've got the wrong name. I'm just mixing them up with somebody else. So I'll dig it up and post it to the group, but I'm fairly certain the place I got mine may have gone out of business. Okay, so I've got my stamp down. By the way, another thing you can do if you forget to put your stamp down, punch a bunch of little discs, put your stamp on the discs.
Yeah,
I keep a little container of tiny stamped discs that I can solder on when I've forgotten to put it on something.
yeah.
Um, it's, if you get any of my work and it has one of those, you know that it is after 2023 that it was made. Because I didn't start doing that until fairly recently. All right, so are we back on? Yes, we're back on the right camera. So once again, this is just going to help me position. So my flux, I need some more solder cut though. So around this way because I like to see that part of it more. Medium solder. I like to use fairly big bits of the wire solder when I'm doing a solder down that is invisible in the interior. So these are like 2 millimeters, 1.5 millimeters ish. And I got a bad batch of solder again and didn't realize it for far too long. I was like, why am I getting all this porosity? Every once in a while, I'll get a bad mix. And I usually think it's me having a bad solder day and don't realize it until I'm 5 pieces in. But I
So
think I've got
from
it.
whom did you get that bad solder?
I got it from Rio, and I've
Yeah.
only had it happen like 3 times in my entire career with them.
Mhm.
It's usually just something got into the mix. Too much old material or something. I don't know. But I've had problems with other places as well. It's just when it happens, I should catch it sooner than I do. And they're good about it. If as long as you catch it early enough and you send it back, you say, look, this is this has got junk in it. They will swap it out for you. But this looks like a batch that I had in a bag for a long time and never tested.
So what happens? It just doesn't solder or what?
It's worse. It kind of solders, but it solders like muddy, easy solder, and then it starts
Oh,
to pit as you polish and clean things.
Oh,
oh.
It's
not
really
good.
unpleasant. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
especially when you've been making like a whole chain and you realize halfway through. So once again, I've got, except you got to be under there for you to do get the project you're supposed to do. I've got one hanging out, lifted off, and the rest are tucked in. Canary in the coal mine thing. So it looks like I might have two lifted off on this one, but it's okay. Oh, I've got one trying to sneak out of its spot. I need to make sure that I get all the front lip and everything down really firmly, because that is the garage door that's got to hold solidly in place. On
So-
this one, I have to be a little careful because I've got reticulation silver up top. There we go. My canary just sank. A little
So why are
encouragement to
you
get.
not soldering it from the bottom, Rachel? You know, putting
What
it
do you
on,
mean?
like putting it on a nest or a tripod or between two bricks?
Oh, I do sometimes do this.
Okay,
But I like to be able to push down as I'm working it, and on the nests and so on, it's a little harder to do.
yeah,
Of course, I
wobbly.
just tossed aside my last cut piece of the medium. Bear with me while I cut another piece. Yeah, so it's really the way that I work, I tend to want to be able to encourage it downward, and a nest is going to wobble and give me grief. If I'm doing that kind of lift, I rarely actually use a nest. I will usually try nickels first,
Yeah,
because nickels have much less transmission factor. So I'm really flooding the heck out of it just to make sure that it's truly down to the base. Because again, you want this unit to not move around on you. There we go. So we now have our second hollow form, and we're going to let those both cool. And then we're going to do a little trimming and test the magic that is the will it pop. So we got to do another lift. And the last step on this is to put its stopper up on the top. I think I'll probably be using, I like water cast as a stopper when I'm using reticulation silver. It has a nice parallel texture. So I'll often do just a plunger of, I get a fairly good sized water drop, and that becomes the plunger. But we size the plunger according to the lowest point, right? When you're putting a plunger on, you have to be able to make sure that you haven't cut it so low that it can't go all the way to doorway open, right? Or doorway sliding out. The car needs to be at its flattest. And then you determine how tall your pin needs to be. If you do it while it's upright, as soon as you cut it short, when you go to do this, it's going to get stuck in the garage, and you will find that you will have to cut off or unsolder and then reposition your peg with a longer peg.
We're going to have to
Questions?
get you a hoist if you're going to keep using the car.
Yes. Yeah, I need a jack.
Stuff.
I need a jacket and an oil change, and
Right.
you know, but it works as a metaphor. People really connect to it because then they
Yeah.
can think about the two pieces of it. So, any other questions on the box clasps in general?
Now that you've heated it up,
Mm-hmm.
how are you going to work harden it without
The work hardening only has to happen at that point that I've been hammering across the front of the sprung action.
Mhm.
But your question points to what a lot of people do is they use either brass or nickel for their tongue, because it doesn't get, it keeps its hardness a little bit better.
Oh.
If I'm making something out of silver, I really want it to stay silver. So I just use the heavier gauge, the 20 gauge tongue. And I know that its weakness is the front of that pin. And we talked about it in an earlier session, but I want to reiterate it, that our spring point is not at the very end of the fold, right?
Right.
When I was first taught box clasps, the person taught me to hammer that front edge. It's a bad call because that becomes thin and work hardens over time with every spring. If you go just ahead of it, then you're not fighting the weak spot and making it get even worse every time it opens and closes. So remember that. It is a big game changer for a better quality clasp.
If you were doing this in
I
gold, would you try to use another metal to not use up
No, I lower carat, the
lower
much lower
carat?
carat.
Okay.
Like the tongue could be a 9 or a 10 carat. I personally would not make this clasp out of gold because that's a lot of freaking gold hidden away inside of a box. Um,
No, but I would
but if
assume that you would put a different thing inside of the box.
uh, I have never seen a piece of gold jewelry that has a handmade clasp that is gold that isn't solid gold.
Okay.
I haven't gone looking terribly hard because I don't buy gold jewelry for myself.
Yeah.
But it's sort of one of those snobbery things. If you're going to work in gold, work in gold. There may be people out there that are doing a platinum tongue because it has a lot harder material. But it just doesn't have the same look if it changes color of metal. Um, yeah, it's something worth asking. If you know any true goldsmiths who are working 90% in gold that make their own clasps, I'd ask them. It's not yeah, it's not something in my budget. That's what it comes down
Yeah.
to.
Yeah.
But
I
yes,
just,
going
I
lower
was just
carat on the tongue.
curious. No, I won't be doing it. So,
Yeah. Well, I mean, you might, if
Especially
you
now.
were to make that into a box clasp, you might want to do that. But again, we drop the carat down considerably on the tongue, simply because anything 18 karat and above is going to be way too soft for a good sprung tongue.
Okay.
So yeah. I'm trying to think whether so I don't actually want to put the peg topper on until I've done a whole lot of trim out, but I do want to try and show you guys our test of whether it loads. So let me see if I can quench these yet. One with the tongue is fine. Yep, we can quench them. So let me see if we can just trim them back enough to test, which is always the nerve-wracking step. And then we will call it a night. I don't think we'll get to forming one of the connectors. But I do want to hear from you guys what you would like to see on our final session besides a sort of retrospective. I'm trying to find all the pieces that I've worked on from the original videos and such since we started 2 years ago. It will be our 20th and final episode.
You're not gonna do it
No!
anymore?
I'm not, this 20, December is our last one on this because I need to, write a book.
Oh, we can watch you while you're doing your book.
Yeah, we can watch you write the book.
I
Yes.
am so stressed working on those clasps as I try to work my way through them.
But we can
But you
watch you
can see me in
work.
class. You can visit me in classes.
Yes, we can.
That's still an option. But yeah, I think 4 years of my life, gang, of doing Wednesday nights, I think I have given my give for now.
you have absolutely.
You've gone beyond.
Up and beyond, yeah. Above and
All right,
beyond,
so
they say.
I once again did a tiny bit of touch up on the spring. I didn't want to go too far with it. But now comes the aha moment. Oh, before
Theme
we
from
get that far, we're
Jaws.
gonna get, pardon?
Theme from
I gotta take some,
Jaws.
yeah,
Dun,
dun,
dun.
dun, 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 dun. I'm taking down a little bit from the sides because that active hammering, it did in fact widen it a smidge. So I need to give myself a little bit more leeway than I had. And that's why you tread very carefully as you're doing these fits and do as much advanced fitting as you can. Be careful not to create a lip that makes it too thick to get in and out. Let's see if that's enough. Still a little too wide. I'm gonna touch it up some more.
Huh.
Normally, I would not go straight from soldering to filing with my nice good files, but I want to get this clicked before we go for the night. Oh, I think I've got some crud in there. Ah, I've got a little bit of solder in the corner, so it's not all about the tongue end of it so much as a little bit on the other side. And remember, if I get height issues, I can also do a careful filing along this wall, because I may still be too snug for that end. Oh, I'm feeling nervous.
Me too.
I want to take a little bit more off of my doorway. It is not too late. It's just a pain to do this tiny filing in here. It's so much easier when there isn't a top on it. You're nervous for me, Wendy?
Yeah. Don't feel like you have to do that tonight while don't rush it.
Oh, no. This is sort of, we're so close that I can taste it territory.
Click.
Nope, we need to take a little bit more off the sides. It is amazing how a tiny little bit of hammering, widening the piece, how much it can get in the way. Oh, that was not a satisfying enough click.
Dirty?
Some of it is the dirt, some of it is, I think I have extended it again so that it is still right up against the back wall with that last touch-up hammering. So I need to take more of the end material down. A little more spring in it. That's a click. It's not a super loud click, but once I get it all cleaned out.
Victory.
Dun,
Yeah.
dun, dun.
Yeah.
And it's so stiff right now that it's going to be hard to get open again. It's not impossible. It's just I need to get that peg on there to make it doable. And I may need to tilt that up a little bit better than it is right now. But yeah, I can work with this. It needs cleaning up. But dun dun dun, we now have no excuse but to make the connecting strings of beads on this puppy.
Yay.
All right, any last thoughts or questions?
I just can't wait till December for you to have that all assembled and
Oh, no promises. No promises. I've got shows. Oh, that's what I forgot to tell you guys. I have, if anybody's in the greater Boston area, I'm doing both a class at Metalworks, just a 3-hour Do I Keep My Day Job
I saw
workshop
that.
on
Mhm.
thinking about business. That is one of my favorite classes to teach. And I have the December hollowform clasps class where we'll be doing the version of this that is, a whole unit that we make into 2 halves of a clasp. And so you'll get some repeat material, but some how-to specialty stuff. And that also is doing my new hollowform toggle clasp, which I'm super excited to teach for the first time. In the first half of 2026, I expect to maybe be doing a Metalworks virtual class on round and pear prong settings if they haven't completely decided I've blown them off because I'm late on handing them my presentation on it. And then I probably will do something along the lines of keyhole clasps 3 ways. So an open keyhole, a peg keyhole, double peg keyhole, and an enclosed using that stitch technique that we just talked about, lentil form clasp. I'm debating whether I'm going to break that up into pieces or whether I'm going to do a 3-day on that one. But
And will that one be different than your first keyhole?
It will overlap the first keyhole because you did one keyhole clasp, I think, in the class you were doing. I think it was the one that's like my my piece that has the meteorite in it. It was a 2 pegs and a hole and a slot pull, or what did you do one of my classes where I did the actual enclosed lentils? I can see you've done a lot with it since then.
I can look it up.
Yeah,
I just remember I'm working on the slide. You know,
on the slide. So was it covered or was it open?
It was covered, and you made the you know, the wire with the ball on the end, and you were sliding it up and down on the hollow form.
Oh, no, no, no. Oh, no, that's actually a whole other clasp. That is a different, so the problem is there's too many things that use a key and a hole. So no, that is a slotted keyhole clasp as opposed to so the 3 kinds of, I have 2 of them easily available and one of them I don't know where it is. Hang on a sec, I'll give you the examples. Let's see.
Yeah, my folder for that class is just right over there. But that would mean I'd have to get up.
That's okay. I know which one you're talking about now. And so the keyhole clasps that are getting ridiculous amounts of positive attention online. This one, let me zoom in a little for you guys. And maybe change to the right camera. So this is a basic keyhole.
Yeah.
Super simple, right? Then there's another one that uses pegs that are offset and a bead sort of thing at the top of them, and you put it through 2 holes and it slides down a slot that looks very much like a keyhole.
Oh, yeah.
And then the third one in that workshop would be, get out of the bag, would be this guy, which is the biggest pain in the butt one. And this is one of those ones that you want to use that stitch technique for, but it's a super stable clasp. So those are the ones that I would be covering in that workshop. The one that you're describing is, I think, is this one where you have the side that comes, the one side of it comes in. Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
So this is a slotted lentil keyhole clasp, which is a mouthful. And then this is an open keyhole.
I like that one. It looks really modern, like very
A lot of people love it. Yeah. Yeah, and it's pretty stable. Like, especially if you put, like, it's a good one for bracelets if the profile isn't quite this high. It's hard to accidentally this one's a little bit looser than I like it to be, but it's hard for them to accidentally come apart. This one is not ever coming accidentally apart unless you fail to put it closed properly. But also, 90% of the population hates trying to put it together and won't use it because you can't see the action. So this one's not in the class that I'll be doing in the first half.
Okay.
But these 2 and one other are potentially. Those are the candidates so far. If I do it as a 3-day, if I do it as anything less, it'll probably be the 2 that I showed you, this one and the open one that you thought was modern looking. Because this is a great building skill for the things that you need to understand before you do one of the hidden away ones.
Baby steps, yes.
Yeah. Yep. And that's why I'm thinking about whether I do it as 3 separate classes or, you know, like you get a package deal if you buy 3 or something. I don't know.
Maybe that would give you flexibility with your writing your book too, if you broke it out. Hard, I don't know what's.
Yeah. So my life is in a weird place right now, so it's going to depend a lot on a lot of things, whether I want to do a 3-day workshop or a bunch of 1-day workshops. In general, my life is not conducive to lots of short workshops.
Okay.
And
Mhm.
frankly, especially when I have mixed or unknown skill attendees, having multiple days so that people who are faster or slower can work across projects at their own pace is a little
Yeah.
easier. Metalworks generally wants me to be doing, like, even if I do it as a 3-day workshop, they want it separated by several days. So one Saturday for 3 Saturdays in a row kind of thing.
Right.
But that again, my schedule that's rough for me. The only other thing I'll say is I'm doing a couple of shows if you're in the Seattle area in November, if you are in the Boston area in November, or if you are in the Portland area, you can see me. Well, it's just south of Portland in Lake Oswego. I've got a month-long gallery event there. If you're in the Kentucky area, you can see 2 of my biggest hollowform pieces at the Kentucky Museum now through early, I think it's April of 2026.
Cool.
So I
Congrats.
don't know
Nice.
if any of you are near any of those or will be.
Wouldn't it be nice? I would love to see that.
And you still have a
Um,
full-time job, right?
I have a complex job is the way I'll put it. Yes, I have a multitude of things going on.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is just a reminder that we will not have a November session. See
Okay.
aforementioned classes and me being on the East Coast for parts of it. But we will have our final workshop on December 17th, the Wednesday before Christmas Eve, a week before Christmas Eve. And
Well, you're just going to have to go into your studio on Wednesday, the third Wednesdays and turn the camera on, and we'll talk amongst ourselves.
We're
yeah,
cheerleaders.
Yeah.
We're cheering
I'm
you.
well, you can continue to do the awesome job that you've been doing about cheering me on my socials and things like that. It is, like I said, it's at once both terrifying and super cool that people are so excited about the
Enjoy
clasps.
it. Enjoy it.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
And you
and
may
it's
get
neat to
people
see
signing
viewers from
up.
all around.
You may
I'm
get people
hoping, I'm
signing up.
hoping.
Yeah.
That would
Yeah.
require that I actually do proper promotion of my own work. I've got to put notices out reminding people that I have the class, but the December class is definitely running. I have the minimum I need for it. And so now it's just, we've got room for a few more, 7 more, 6 more, something like that. I can't remember what. I
Yeah,
think
you
I just
definitely have to
expanded it to
promote
about 12.
yourself. You definitely have to promote the
Yep.
Yeah.
classes while you're doing what you're doing on Instagram, to have a
Yeah,
link
yeah.
to your website so they can
I,
sign up.
I've got the links. I'm just terrible at posting about it, things. That's what it comes down to is I resent needing to do social media. It's
Well,
Yeah.
such a
adopt a
time suck.
kid. Just adopt a kid and have them do it.
Good. I mean, that won't take any more time than dealing with social media.
I have to figure
All right.
to
So
use
thank
Instagram.
you as always. Pardon? Say that again, Wendy?
I say I have to figure out how to use Instagram.
Or you don't. I mean, if you
Yeah.
haven't already, it's worth avoiding. It can be pretty angst laden these days, but
Yeah.
I learned watching
it is,
YouTube. YouTube
yeah,
Yeah.
is really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how I started.
yeah. It's just such a huge time sink, and it's so
It
easy
is.
to scroll instead of engaging with the real world. So, um,
Yeah. That's why I don't do social media.
it's an evil I have to put up with, is what it comes down to.
Right.
But I appreciate you all for being some of my steady regulars, and hopefully I'll see you at the final session, at which point I hope you will look back over your last 2 years' work and see any of the things that have been influenced by what we've been doing on this, whether it's scrapping stuff, whether it's rebuilding stuff, finishing stuff, bring it to the table. The mess behind me in my studio right now is me trying to pull out and organize and see all of the things in their various progression states from when we started, which means I've been going through the earliest videos and sort of seeing what I could see to try and remember which projects actually were part of it.
Well,
But we'll do a little
thank you for doing
retrospective, we'll
this.
share some work. Pardon?
Thank you for doing this. This has been
Sure.
Yes.
wonderful. I know I missed a
Mhm.
And
big
if
part, but yeah,
no,
coming
that's okay.
back
They're
was
all
just great.
online. They're
I
all
know.
online.
I
And
know.
I suspect that we'll still have one or two of these for me to shape unless I get really into finishing this project in time for December. So I apologize for not getting to that today, but we have a clasp.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yay.
just finish it. Finish it.
Just like that. Just do it, in your copious free time while preparing for 2 shows and a workshop.
That's
Or
Oh,
right.
workshops.
Yeah.
oh.
Slacker.
And your mom.
And my mom, yes, my mom, who is hopefully going home next week. So we're
Oh.
hoping for that.
Oh.
Thank you all again, and hopefully I will see you all at December's final session. And
Yes,
if
thank
not,
you.
you'll catch me online.
All right. Thank you so
Bye,
much.
gang.
Thank you, Rachel.
All right.
Hugs.
Night night.
Bye.
Good luck with it all.
Thank you.
Yes. Enjoy. Enjoy.